Hello and welcome to 5 p.m. Lockdown Beers and Rugby Chat. Yes, we're a couple of minutes away, 1 minute 20 seconds until I can open my beer. What am I going for today? I'm back on the 2E. There we go. You see the beers there, racking them up now from the Lockdown Beers as we come to you at 5 p.m. every single day, helping you get through lockdown with a bit of entertainment, a bit of chat and stuff. Don't forget, you can join me if you want to. There's a link in the tweet over on Twitter at Driving Maul if you would like to come on the show and have a chat with me, or you can whack comments in the live chat. That can be done through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of that kind of place. Just let me know what you want to talk about. About 48 seconds so I can open my beer, just to be precise. Some of the topics today, obviously we've got an All Blacks and a Wallabies squad for Bledisloe Cup 3. I also spent nearly an hour watching a press conference that the Fiji Drua gave. There's been a couple of comments around women's rugby and also concussion as well. But those two might run out of time with, to be honest with you, and probably going to be talked about tomorrow. Looking at, so yeah, that's what we're going to be chatting about. 18 seconds until I can open my beer and have a beer. Let me know in the live chat, actually, what is your beer that you're joining me with on at 5 p.m. here on Friday of lockdown. Hopefully you're knocking off work on time, already have done. Maybe you've even had a beer. I don't know. Let me know. 3, 2, 1, and there we go. The TUI is now open. Not sponsored by TUI, by the way. But hey, if TUI wants to sponsor me, go for it. Look, I can even pour it nicely, showing the logo and everything. Well, I like that kind of pour. I know you guys don't, but there you go. So what should we start with? Let's start with that All Blacks squad then that has been announced. We talked about this on Tuesday night on the Driving Maul show. Went through and gave you what I thought our squad was. We weren't that far off. But jumping on to join me for the chat, I've got Shane. How are you doing, sir?
Great, Paul. Hello, everybody. How are we?
Well, very good, thank you. And obviously joining us, well, not obviously, but for those of you who don't know, joining us from Queensland, up in over there in Australia. Hopefully you're keeping well and had a good day. I'm afraid you're probably in lockdown similar to us, aren't you?
Yeah, northern New South Wales, Tamworth, Paul,
sorry.
actually. But, definitely still a Queensland supporter. Yeah, we're in lockdown, and it's rough. But luckily, as an essential worker, as a meat worker, I can go to work every day and get stuck in. And it's still great that we have so much sport on that's keeping us entertained, as well as.
Well, yes, you guys over in Australia have kept us entertained. Obviously, we've had our sport stopped over here whilst we've gone through this lockdown, and we're still a few weeks away before we get that back up and running. But you've had the NRL going, keeping everyone entertained, which is great. I know you're a good NRL fan. Don't forget, folks, we've got our standoff show on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. covering the NRL, which has been fantastic. As I've got you on, let's actually start with the Wallabies squad that's been named rather than the All Blacks one. As we've because it's been a long time since we've had you on the show, and it's great to have you back. Simon's there on the Jim Bean. You've got the right jersey on, the right hat on as well. There we go. This looks like probably an Ashwin comment or a Stephen Harris comment here. This isn't me. I can promise you, saying, is your internet connection stuck in the last decade? What do you mean? You might have a good camera, but the internet connection's okay.
I think it's the lighting than anything else. I think that's a bit better.
So let's run through that. There's just one change to the pack from the last game with James Slipper, Fanganuka and Alalatoa across the front row, Swain and Phillip in the engine room with Swinton, Hooper and Valentini, the Lucies. Tate McDermott, who has really been a revelation this season, hasn't he, with his sniping, will partner up with Noel Lolosio in the halfbacks. Centre pairing, Samu Karevi, haven't seen him for a while, and Len Ikitau. A back three of Korobetti, Kellaway and Banks. Off the bench, Longaran, Bell and Tupu will replace the front row. Rodder is the lock replacement. Samu coming on at number 8 probably, with White, Reece Hodge being the sort of makeshift 10 replacement if needed, and Pataya on the bench there. So just the one change in that pack from the last test. What do you think of Dave Rennie's selection this time round?
Well, sometimes I've always questioned Dave Rennie selections because sometimes sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's good to have Isaac Rodder back in the squad. Obviously, he's got some international experience playing club rugby overseas now, which is handy, as is Samu Karevi. I think that's the big inclusion and the talking point. There was very nearly another talking point with whether they'd play Quade Cooper or not, and I've got to say,
that was never going to be done. That was, I think Dave Rennie brought him in as a bit of a mentor for Lolosio off the pitch, and it's definitely kept the media happy and busy, and he gave them a storyline that made their life easy, so they didn't concentrate on other things that he didn't want them to talk about.
I think you'll find, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does actually play against South Africa or Argentina, though. I just hope, though, and this is my opinion, Paul, as an Australian, that they keep the faith with Lolosio. He's young. I mean, O'Connor's also out injured as well. That's another headline that we've probably forgotten. But the Wallabies have to do two things. They've got to play a bit more narrower. They've got to play with possession of the ball and keep the ball in hand and tighter. They've got to win the breakdown. And Sonny Bill Williams made a really good point in the halftime and full-time shows on Stan Sport that we got here that streams the test. The loose forwards, and minus Hooper because Hooper always stands up, loose forwards have to stand up for the Wallabies because we all know what the New Zealand back five in the forwards can do. Gee, they're dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, Swinton clearly is there to play on the edge and to add a bit of grit. He's got to make sure he stays on the right side of that line, though. And then Valentini's there for his carrying, so he's got to get on that front foot, get across the gain line. Otherwise, why are you selecting him really? So that's got to be why those guys are there. To be fair to them, look, Swinton 3 tests, Rob Valentini only 9. They really are inexperienced, along with those locks, Darcy, Swain, and Matt Phillip, 5 and 14 tests. Look, there's a lot of inexperience there amongst those back 5. So I mean, 4 out of 5 of them with less. Each of them have less. I mean, what the most tests is 14. They really, it's a very inexperienced team that needs time to gel. I mean, just like Lolosio, as you say, he needs time. He's only got 7 tests now. So again, but also you're going to be careful of not burning him out. You can't play him every game, right? So he does need to have some downtime. But as long as he realizes that that's why he's not being dropped because of his performance, but being dropped to manage his workload or rotated rather than dropped, I think is the right one there. Look, Tom Banks, and I think really needs a big game because he hasn't fired so far. And as you say, that Karevi one is going to be interesting. Played in Japan, been playing sevens. How much does he know, or how much is he does he know the systems? Is he physically prepared for this type of rugby? We're going to see, aren't we? But look, him and Rodder are in because of basically children arriving. Look, both sides have that issue, and the fact that the All Blacks are missing 3 players because of babies on the way. So imagine what was happening 9 months ago, folks. 5 babies all within the space of a few weeks. I can't. Clearly, some happy reunions after the Rugby Championship last year, or after the November International, the internationals last year. From that, also joining us, we've got Con from down in Christchurch. How you doing, sir?
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to see you. Very well, thank you.
Good. Hope you're staying safe and well down there. So look, I mean, it's it's a decent one. It's good to see that consistency that Dave Rennie isn't freaking out, making lots of changes. We know what happened in Perth last year, and one player that Boa didn't want to select on our Tuesday night show was a certain Scott Barrett, who will be there. He has a few demons too late to rest, hasn't he, Con?
Yes, I reckon. Is this? I was going to ask someone on here. Is this the first time we've had three Barrett brothers starting? Not playing,
Yes.
of course, but starting. Wow, that's incredible, isn't it?
Because we were supposed to have it. Hang on, not sure about starting. I know that it was going to be the first time they were all on the bench, three brothers on the bench earlier, but one of them got injured and so pulled out. So I think Scott pulled out, didn't he, through a minor injury.
They've definitely all played. It's just where they've all started. Yeah, and so that's an amazing. It's a pretty big deal, and freakish gene pool coming from that part of the world. I mean, you think about it internationally. You got what it says about New Zealand rugby. Three men in a family get on the peak. Dare I say it? The peak sports, the peak rugby team in the world. Starting, and it makes us look small, doesn't it? Like, does that mean well, obviously that family's doing something really good, but it's a very much a small country when that happens.
Well, Con, I think you're lucky that South Africa is still asleep. Otherwise,
yeah, that's right. If Steve was here, no, who's the gentleman?
John.
John, that's right. Yeah, he'd have something to say about that.
But they do have two more brothers who haven't. Who haven't made it to this level. So, yeah, 3 out of 5 is not too bad. I mean, their sister also is a high level sports person, I think, from memory. I can't remember what she does. I think she's in netball, but I could be wrong.
It's exceptional.
So yes, very good. Sorry,
excuse me. I was just going to say, was it always a Sunday game? That actually caught me off guard at the beginning of the week when I realised it was a Sunday evening game.
No, it wasn't intended to, mate. The All Blacks had to pull out because I think it was due to quarantine issues.
Yeah, it was going to be last week, wasn't it?
Yep. Last Saturday night. Yep.
What's the Australian sort of public's appetite for a Sun? I assume, what time would it be in Perth then? Is that like 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock?
2 p.m.
2 p.m. Yeah, so 2 p.m. I suppose 2 p.m. on a Sunday. It's people will still be drinking then from the night before. It'll be sweet, I bet.
I think it's a big Con, if I could say so. I think it's going to be a big boon for Perth because they've got the AFL Grand Final. They've got the preliminary, at least one preliminary final. They've got a semi-final this week. So it's a big weekend for Optus Stadium, and I think they'll just and we're talking about two neutral sides that aren't Perth related playing tonight in a semi-final, and there's already 39,000 out of the potential 60,000 capacity tickets sold. So Perth is Perth is just amazing with what they can do with sport.
Yeah, so they're obviously they're getting more tests, it seems, right? Like I'm not sure. Obviously, we played in Australia 2 years ago in Perth. Is that correct?
Yep.
And then we lost. Was that the loss? Yeah, the loss where we got the yeah. So that was 2019, and there's probably only been one New Zealand Australia test in Australia since then. Has it been? Yeah, last year's Brisbane.
Yeah, the 1 year. Yeah. So yes, I think
a popular place.
Well, I think Forrester's Money is popular, which is a part of it, and it's also Rugby Australia trying to rebuild their reputation over that side after ditching the Force. So I think there's a number of things going on there, but it is a good play, and also they've dealt with COVID in a better one of the better sort of states as well. So all those things add up together. But the reason that the game is on Sunday is because of the AFL games. They have first choice of when they use the stadium.
Ah, okay. And Shane, whereabouts are you based, if you don't mind me asking, and what's your sort of home team?
So I'm from Tamworth in northern New South Wales. I do go for the Reds over the Waratahs.
Oh, really? Cool. Is that a recent thing?
No. Well, in New South Wales, once you get further north from Sydney, you find a lot more Queenslanders, Queensland support because it's a lot closer to Queensland. We're still 400 k's from Queensland, but it's just a thing, I suppose.
Yeah, that's cool.
So since you've already mentioned the three Barretts starting, I'll just run through the All Blacks selection. So George Bower, Cody Taylor, Niapolualala across the front row. We've got Retallick and Scott Barrett in the engine room, and then Papulehi, Kiriawani, Papulehi, and Sevilla are the Lucies. So only one change there, and that being Scott Barrett coming in for Sam Whitelock, who's obviously in New Zealand for the birth of one of his kids. Weber and Bowden Barrett pair up in the halfbacks. A lot of chat about Weber being picked ahead of TJ Perinara. Personally, I think that is this is Brad Weber's only his second start out of 11 caps. So congratulations, obviously 11th cap. Congratulations to him on that one. I think he deserves a start. Havili and Leonard Brown in the centres with Rico Ioane, Jordan and Geordie Barrett are your Lucies. Off the bench, Takilaho, Tuanakafi, Ta'avo, Va'ai, and Blackadder. Blackadder, the only forward there not to have a kind of apostrophe in his name. Off the bench, then Perinara, DMAC, and Bridge are the backs replacements in there. Seeing Rico Ioane back on the wing. I mean, he wants to be a centre. He wants to be a 13. I mean, what's your thoughts on picking a player who plays at 13 for his franchise, but then is picked out of position by the All Blacks?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I saw that and I was surprised. You know more than me, Paul. Is Severis? Is there any availability issues with some of the other players that might occupy that spot? Otherwise, yeah, I was surprised to see that. He's a very good 11, so it's not exactly a big drop, but surprising. Sorry, Paul, continue. You're about to speak.
No. I was just showing you. Yeah, no, there's been no mention of any other players being. The only person who isn't available is Patrick Tuipulotu through a tight groin, apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the only one that's been mentioned.
Yeah, it did surprise me. I wonder if they are trying to. Well, he obviously he's done better on the wing than he has in the midfield historically, as in his fame, if you want to call it that. It's probably the wrong choice of words, but his we all knew and love him probably from the Lions tour in 2017 when he was playing on the wing. So perhaps it's the Fozzie and the selectors and everyone are trying to shunt him that way. But we've obviously got some quite a few good wingers as well. So it's a very interesting pick. What about your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, he played all his age grade rugby was played at 13, and even when he was getting selected on the wing, he was playing at NPC level in the centre. So I understand why he wants to do that. We've lost Simon. I mean, looking on right records, he's not a good enough 13 at the moment, and he's best at 11. Look, he needs time at this level if you're going to have him there. But it is becoming very crowded. Well, actually, a lot of the positions are very crowded. But if you think you've got Anton Leonard-Brown, Goodhue, Enor, and Rico Ioane, who are all sort of 13s first.
Who would be your first choice, 11 and 14, Paul?
Probably Bridge and Jordan.
Okay. Not having Severis.
Not having Severis, no.
Elaborate on that. Is that to do with form, or the type of play, or maybe his sort of history or anything like that?
No, it's to his skill set. I mean, Bridge is one of those players who you kind of don't. He isn't a flash player, but he just does everything right. And I remember watching him last year in the Crusaders versus the Blues, where I think it was Talia kind of totally skinned him early on, and then basically Bridge just went, "You're not playing for the rest of the game," and defensively just totally shut him down. And I think he's a very, so I think from that point of view, he's a very smart, kind of a Ben Smith sort of player who has just got a rugby head on him that can totally shut things down. And so from that point of view, that's why I would take him, because he's someone who can adapt and a sort of no mistake kind of player. Whereas Sever Reece, to my mind, I think he's got better at it, but he's not the biggest guy, and has a tendency to lead with the shoulder too much in tackles, and so I think he has that sort of yellow card possibility in him, which worries me sometimes.
That is fair. I think Sever Reece is obviously best suited when he's playing with Moanga. Perception. They're a very good combination, both Crusader and at All Black level, though there hasn't been enough of that seen. But yeah, I actually, I'm thinking for the South Africa test, and maybe I'm just harking back to the 2019 World Cup, but I think Sever Reece is very handy when on the attack from a tactical kicking. So kick receiver, not probably better than Bridge in a defensive, receiving position, but from an attack point of view, I think he's a very interesting player, and I think against South Africa it will be critical. There's going to be, even if we're going to play the type of rugby we all hope we're going to play, there's still going to be a good amount of kicking, maybe a lot more than people think. But as far as this game goes, sorry.
Kicking isn't necessarily bad. It's to me, it's about the type of kicking that you're trying to do. Is for my mind. If we go back to that opening game of the Rugby World Cup, you remember that there was a pass that was passed backwards to Richard Moanga, a good 10 feet or a good long distance behind the gain line, so that he had time to put a crossfield kick into Sever Reece because that's where the space was.
My recollection of that kick was the kick to Sever Reece was imperfect. It actually didn't really go forward. It was almost horizontal. This is my memory. I could be wrong. And it was a bit of luck that it's just Sever put in a mad step to slip past. I think it was Colby. But generally speaking, the number of times as a Crusaders fan you'd see Richard Moanga put in a kick to Sever Reece, and either he'd be in full space or do a basketball style jump and catch, was enough to kind of go, oh, I think that's a useful tool against aggressive defence like South Africa. But obviously, as against Australia, it's a very different situation.
Yeah, but again, also, I think Sever Reece has spent most, if not the vast majority of his career on the right wing, not the left wing. But it's not what the All Blacks want in a right winger on the whole. I mean, Naholo is the big
bedroom room.
Is the big, what do you call it? I've gone blank. It's Mabimpi apparently the Reece beat, not.
Okay, there you go. Good one.
Other way around. But I've gone blank as to what I was going to say. But yeah, normally the right wing on the All Blacks is your Ben Smith, kind of your fullback come winger.
Yep.
And I've gone blank as to the Crusaders fullback who used to play there a lot as well. Dag as well. I mean, those before that, Corey Jane, and Neymel Scudder, all guys who play 14 or 15.
Yep.
So that's generally what the All Blacks want, and hence I think Will Jordan is the perfect guy for that. And I think Reece doesn't fit the right mould for a 14.
And have you guys discussed, I obviously didn't miss the start, so I might be retreating, but did you guys discuss the Brad Weber decision over TJ? And
not overly. I just said I thought it was a deserved one, that he's been around the whole time, whereas TJ's come back from Japan, missed some of the squad sessions, and that Weber deserves. It's only his second start ever.
Yeah,
the All Blacks. So I think he deserves it.
I mean, look, I'm on the Brad Weber train. Big fan, Brad. I know you're listening. Really happy, that you're starting. But I'm, huge Brad Weber fan. I think he very, very seldom makes an error, and I think in most other teams, excluding Australia, of course, Shane, he'd be starting or second choice number 9 any day of the week. I think it's just he's got a couple of freaks in a good way in front of him, which is TJ and Aaron Smith. I mean, these guys, New Zealand's been waiting a very long time for number 9s that are that good. We're very, very lucky. Otherwise, Brad Weber would be starting and we'd be very satisfied. Like, I think Brad Weber's kind of as good as what we had 10, 15 years ago. He'd be right up the front. But coming back to it, I have to assume that they have motives slightly outside of this game to putting him starting. What I mean by that is either for building continuity, or which I don't really understand because Brad Weber's about 34 or 32 or something, or maybe TJ needs a bit of time because he's they don't rate his Japan time. I don't know. It just if I was picking out and out form historical and you wanted to put your best team forward to win this game, which is a critical game, second game of the Rugby Championship for us, I would have TJ in there. So I'm just wondering what's the reasoning.
So
if
quote,
Brad Weber was 22, it'd make sense.
To quote Foster, well, remember that Brad has signed up through till 2023, so he's here for until the next Rugby World Cup. So age from that point of view doesn't really, if we're thinking of that kind of time frame. Brad has been with us through the Steinlager series and coming into the Rugby Championship. We really wanted to build the 9 combination, especially with Aaron not here, and to complement TJ's leadership and experience. So this is a great opportunity to put our faith in Brad to start the test. Okay. So yeah, this is it's a reward for him being around, for the effort he's put in, and it's thinking forward that we know what TJ can do, right? We know TJ can do this, but how do we make sure that we know that if we lose TJ, and we have a World Cup final, that the next replacement guy has got the experience. So I think it's more that than anything else.
So definitely they've got plans outside of the specific game for their intention, which is cool. I mean, but the rest of the team, ultimately, it's a pretty good team. Is that your thought, Shane, coming from over there, looking at the team? I'm very interested to see when the Australian team's going to be named, but yeah.
Oh, it's been named. We've already gone through that.
Oh, I missed it. I Googled it and I couldn't see it. So.
I think to answer that, Con, I think the word depth is so important with New Zealand rugby. They got more depth than a concrete lay. Honestly, but what they and can I say, Con, I'm on the Brad Weber train as well. I love watching him play. I think he just excites, the fan at home or the fan in the stadium with just the way he runs. And he could just, off the back of a scrum, or he could throw that pass, or he can just do something when the action's required. So, look, the All Blacks will always put a strong team on the park, and it's just because of that word depth, I think. You'll find, and I look forward to seeing what they can do again. Well, not really as an Australian. I know what they can do. It's just up to us, the Wallabies, to stop it this time.
And what do you think of the team that has been named? I know you've gone over it, so I don't intend for you to retreat it, but are you? Is there anything in there that you're not thrilled with? I mean, Taniela Tupou replacement I still think is controversial, but it's me.
I'm never truly thrilled by a Wallaby side. I haven't been since about 2015, mate. But look, I'm excited to see Samu Kerevi back. I think Isaac Rodder, in terms of what he offers in the lock forward position, Izzy Nazarani played well actually off the bench. and he value adds with his running game. And of course, well, Hooper is just elite, and
Yes.
that's not just coming from the Australian side. That was feedback coming off the New Zealand commentary side. He's but you can't afford Hooper to just play captain's knocks alone. This really has to be a team effort by the Wallabies, and I know we say it quite a lot in Australia, but beating the All Blacks is a step forward, and if they could be at least competitive every test. Don't forget the Springboks are the current world champions. Argentina are after that, and they took us to 2 draws last year. We were lucky to draw with them. So there is a lot of rugby ahead for this Wallaby side.
I think we need to also bear in mind how the All Blacks, whilst they don't say it, they're going through a transition period, right? Yeah. And rebuilding depth, or rebuilding experience rather than depth. Sorry, there's 6 players in that All Blacks starting 15 with less than 20 caps, but you compare that to the Wallaby side where they've got 11 players with less than 20 caps. It's a very inexperienced side that needs time to gain experience. And so, yes, they will have moments where they do, where they do kind of maybe show that inexperience. And I think that's we need to stick with that and realize that when we're looking at their performances, that's around how many inexperienced players they have got.
And obviously, they're a little bit depleted too. I mean, fly half, it's just a real shit. Like I think for Australia to be as lethal as they should be, they'd have I think Lola Oseo is actually doing decent for considering how young and inexperienced, how green he is to the position. I think we could see that. But if you had who's the injured fella, O'Connor? I mean, if you had O'Connor, I think they'd be significantly more confident and better. But I'm interested, do you guys share that? Am I underestimating Lola Sia?
Oh, look, he's definitely green. I think, and James O'Connor's definitely more experienced. But at the end of the day, you always have injuries. You've got to cope with those, and you can't be saying the whole time that this player is if we had this player, if we had that player. So yeah, to my mind, I think you've got to realise you got to that we can't. If they've got 10 injuries, then it's a different ball game. But when you've just got one player one starter missing through injury, and maybe a couple through maternity leave or paternity leave, then I don't think we can. You've got to be able to cope with those, really.
I heard it might have been something you guys said or someone else said, but if the Wallabies have lost 2 players to paternity leave or other sort of recent family leave, and the All Blacks have lost 5 players to that, the Wallabies are going to be worse off just because of who those players are. And that's the unfortunate situation. It might seem like, the New Zealand's depleted. We've lost Moanga and Aaron Smith and whoever else, but the reality is that the Wallabies players can less afford to lose those players. But completely agree that Michael Hooper is absolutely class, and he'd walk onto any team. It's great to watch him, and I do feel bad for him. I think he, not to be disrespectful or anything, but he would be an exceptional 7 at any era of Australia, and he's in a difficult position where you can tell that that he hates losing, and it's just the situation. Shane, a quick question.
Yep.
Do you? I listen to a few Aussie podcasts because they're really good, actually, and there's regular chatter about the fact of one of the worst let me rephrase. One of the things that keeps Australia from prospering or being popular with the fans is the fact that you play New Zealand 3 times at the beginning, or 2 to 3 times at the beginning of the season, and it's just it just basically starts you on a negative position. French tour aside, which was great. What's your take on that? Do you think that they need to change it up, move it to the end of move the Bledisloes to the end, play New Zealand once, winner take all?
That'd be nice if the Wallabies won that one.
Yeah, it's a good chance, isn't it?
It'd show us a trophy we haven't won in years. But look, you are right. I think that it does sort of annoy rugby fans like me that we've got the All Blacks 3 times in a row virtually. And let's not forget this game hasn't been played yet, but 2-0 already. And you got to say the better side has won the Bledisloe. There is no doubt in my mind. This has nothing to do with refs or anything like that. It came down to pure skill. But yeah, look, I think something probably from that regard, Con, has to change, and maybe they've got to look at that fixturing a bit better. Maybe play the All Blacks as the first game, which is the traditional thing to do in the Rugby Championship. Then play the All Blacks.
Play the other 2 at the back
in the last round or something.
I think that'd be an excellent idea. I mean, you either go. You either build up to the. I think New Zealand rugby. Firstly, I think Australian rugby. It's a drug. It's a drug that they're hooked on. And what I mean by that is, it gets the crowd, television and in person, and so that's important because it's money. It's a money maker. But then, it has damage, sort of underlying. It's a bit of a cancer because the losses effectively turn people away. I think New Zealand rugby, like it is also a moneymaker. Like there's no 2 ways about it. For both parties, it's a moneymaker, and also for both countries, it has a long-term terminal. I think it's terminally ill in that if the results continue to be in favour of New Zealand, it will continue to become less appealing, and I think. On the other side, New Zealand rugby loves it because it's a great curtain raiser, gets the crowds in, gets the money. The players probably really like it because they're all up for it. But I think they either need to try and slide them towards the latter end of the competition, which I'm sure doesn't really work, or at least, as you say, just have one at the start and have the other 2 at the end before we go on a trip to Europe, or potentially because they seem to have the initial Bledisloe Cup, which is outside of the Rugby Championship. Why not have it? Is that not true?
It's a one-off this year. Normally the third Bledisloe is after the Rugby Championship. So normally we start off with 2 games against the Wallabies to kick off the Rugby Championship, and then we have that last. So that's hence the title of the show today, which was "Has the Rugby Championship Started?" From a New Zealand point of view, because we've started off with the Bledisloe Cup game, which wasn't part of the Rugby Championship, it feels like all 3 Bledisloe Cup games aren't the Rugby Championship. And until we play Argentina and we go to Queensland, that's when the Rugby Championship starts. It's kind of how it feels to me. Now, obviously, South Africans will be like, well, look, this game should be important to you guys because it's a Rugby Championship game. And we're like, but it's the 3rd game of the Bledisloe, and we've already decided the Bledisloe. We're not even thinking about the Rugby Championship yet. And they're like, guys, we're in this competition. We've already had 2 games. We've had 2 rounds of this competition, and you guys haven't woken up yet to it's happening. So yeah, that's extra Bledisloe game has to be after the Rugby Championship because it's totally changed what the whole narrative of this game and of what's going on. One of the problems is every single time we've had 3 Bledisloe Cup games, it's always been decided after 2 games. The 3rd game has never been a decider. For the Bledisloe Cup, so it hasn't worked. Being the idea that we have 3, unfortunately, but from a dollar's point of view, they have to have it because they just need the cash. I mean, the All Blacks are playing 15 Test matches this year, which 14 is the normal number. So this is more than they would normally play. So
because
they
of an
really are.
extra game at the? Oh no, we played 3. We only played 3 for the early year games, right? The mid-year games.
Yep, mid-year games was normal. The extra Bledisloe Cup game is normal.
It's the USA one, isn't it?
There's a USA one, and a France one. So there's one before and after the November internationals. Normally, there's
But
just
that USA one was tacked on late, wasn't it? It was only announced a good sort of month ago as a late addition to the calendar. Is that correct?
Sure, you can. The New Zealand Rugby knew that game was happening probably about 6 or 12 months ago.
Gotcha,
But they just don't announce. They
why
refuse
they
to
didn't
announce things until.
That's interesting. So,
They
Paul,
hate-
if you...
Go
Sorry, go ahead, mate. Excuse me.
Now, New Zealand Rugby hates announcing things until everything is absolutely, definitely going to happen.
Oh,
Right,
I suppose
they
with COVID, you could kind of give them a little bit of credit, credit for that. Paul, so what would be... You're the ideas man. You've got some really good strategic sort of ideas, structural sort of theories. What would you do to solve the problem that we have at the moment, which is I'm not sure if you disconnected. I'm not sure if you heard what we were saying. Effectively, the challenge we have.
I got what you're saying. One thing you can do is that the Rugby Championship has always started with the Bledisloe Cup doubleheader. Then South Africa and Argentina travel here, and then New Zealand and Australia travel to South Africa and Argentina. Well, why does it have to happen in that order? Right? Why don't you go to South Africa and Argentina and play those games first, and then all come back, play the South Africa and Argentina games in Australasia, and then South Africa and Argentina go back to South Africa and Argentina and play each other, whilst you have 3 Bledisloe Cups on the trot at the end of it. So look, you can shift them around. It doesn't have to be the same every single time. As you say, one of the reasons they want it that way is that both by having Argentina and South Africa playing each other and New Zealand and Australia playing each other, at the beginning of the Rugby Championship, you've got games in your own time zone. Whereas if you travel over to South Africa, then you don't. Or if they travel here, they don't have them. So you want to kick off the Rugby Championship with games in your time zone. So I get from a TV point of view why they've done it. But as you say, from a competition and from that point of view, it's not great. I think we've seen with the games in South Africa being in the middle of the night, that, as I say, we don't realise that Rugby Championship has really started. I don't think anyone's even really the hardcore rugby fans realise that the Springboks and the Pumas have played twice, but the general public hasn't even registered. So that is a problem if you have those early rounds not in your time zone. How do you wake up the audience to realise the games are happening?
That's true. And they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. If they made the Bledisloe or the New Zealand Australia tests 2 games, how the fuck would Australia win it? It'd be so difficult for them to win 2 out of 2. So they kind of need to have 3 games to make it fair and reasonable for someone to win it. But I guess it can. There's a decent chance it's going to lead to a pretty, unpleasant experience for the average Australian fan. And it is David versus Goliath. We're over here. We do love the Aussie tests. They step up for them. They get up. There's no doubt about that. But from a resources and players point of view, it's imagine the New Zealand cricket team playing the Australian cricket team, who traditionally give us an absolute fucking hiding every time. They're our bogey team. Imagine us playing them 3 times a year to kick off our cricket season, which isn't really a season, and getting 3 losses. It would be such a demoralising affair, and it would happen too, because at the moment, the New Zealand rugby team, as New Zealand cricket team, apart from the fact we got absolutely smoked by Bangladesh, is on a bit of a high and has been for some time, because the only time we lost recently was when we went to Australia and got a hammering, but that was over 2 years ago, so we forgot about it. So that I sort of put it in that context with cricket. It would be really difficult for fans to build momentum and get enjoyment. But I don't really know what the solution is. I think we've got micro solutions, which is moving it, which I think is a really good idea. But unless you move it to one winner takes all game, I like the idea of a winner takes all game, but I think it doesn't work for money and all the other reasons. So yeah, it's a difficult.
Look, if you have, you could say that the 2 games in the Rugby Championship aren't Bledisloe Cup games, but then it looks rather stupid if one team wins both those games and then loses the third game and doesn't get the Bledisloe Cup.
Exactly.
So to my mind,
Exactly.
it is what it is. Simon says he thinks Rugby Championship should be in one country, similar to the Rugby World Cup each year. Financially, that just cannot happen. Sorry, but New Zealand Rugby needs the gate receipts each year. So does Rugby Australia. So does South African Rugby. So does Argentina Rugby. That's not gonna fly.
It's definitely an interesting idea, Simon. I think the reality is, though, you kind of end up missing out on your home team money. So the unfortunate reality is, in New Zealand, Argentina versus South Africa is not going to get many people going to it, and we'd love it. Like I'd go, but it's going to be played in Invercargill, and it's going to have 10,000 people, maybe 15,000 people, and that's going to be compared with what that could get in Mendoza or fucking wherever else. That's, I think, why it's a good idea, but it probably wouldn't work. Just you're right. It's the gate receipts. Also,
Argentina are trying to grow their fan base. If they only play at home once every 4 years, that's not going to help.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Simon says, except for the North Shore. Yeah, look, even the All Blacks struggled to fill Eden Park twice, right? So come on, we wouldn't get great crowds, I'm afraid. And also, we just don't have the people with the same kind of wallets and the economy that the British Isles do. Because look what happens to the Lions: 40,000, 50,000 travel with the team once every 4 years. Now, if you went and said, "Okay, guys, let's all go to Argentina once every 4 years," how many Kiwis would actually could afford to go? I don't think it would that many. That would be really that many.
There's probably only sort of 50 or 100 or so people, or excluding people that are affiliated with the team, that would actually go for a tour for a rugby championship game in South Africa. You'd have to have a bit of dosh. It's certainly a pretty impressive effort to do so. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I remember in 2017 catching up with Lions fans. I mean, some of them I know on Twitter, and some I just chatting to them and they were while they were here, and they were just saying, "Yeah, I've started saving for my next for the next Lions tour." Awesome. You're like, "Whoa, okay."
And I'm definitely jealous that we don't have something like that, because I'm not sure how often you guys have done this, but going on tour. And I'm not talking about sports necessarily, but any type of event is always, especially when you get the VIP thing or something like that. It's always really impressive. You get to separate yourself for a little bit and do something different. And I could imagine a Lions tour just being amazing. We don't have anything like that. I mean, going on an India tour. If I flew over to France and fucking Ireland and Wales. Who we're playing at the end of the year. It's not England, I know, but if you flew over there, it would be awesome. But you'd be a pretty small group on one of those All Blacks tours, and I'd love to do it. It's one of the things on my list of things to do when I've got a little bit more spare dosh, is to go on one of those big tours. But you're going with probably 50. Imagine going with like 15, 20,000. It'd be amazing. I guess a World Cup is
more like 40,000 for the for the Lions tours. But the Barmy Army is one that I would love to do. A 5-match test series in India with the Barmy Army, or in the West Indies with the Barmy Army, would be amazing. But New Zealand just doesn't have the population to have that many people with the spare time and the spare cash to go do it.
And we've got less tours and less sort of, I guess, what I mean by that is, specific tours. We don't do 3-match tours anymore. So, whereas I guess, France coming down here, I doubt a huge number of French fans would come down to Australia if COVID wasn't there. Some would, but I think the Japan World Cup was probably an opportunity I'm a bit gutted I missed, because I have a feeling that a lot of people from all countries kind of went and probably were a little bit more. They probably collaborated in their drinking and hanging out. You'd imagine, because if you went to the UK, I was over in France for the France and the UK for the World Cup in 2007, and I was there. But everyone that is there is indifferent to the fact that you're there for the Rugby World Cup, except for when you go through the gates to the stadium. Whereas I'd imagine in Japan, people walk in the street with their rugby kit. There was probably a certain amount of camaraderie with a stranger that I think is quite rare. So I'm kind of gutted I missed out on that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think World Cups and Lions Tours the only time you've seen that. Look, we've been going for nearly twice as long as I kind of intend to for these sort of things. I'm going to do a special show just talking about the Fiji Drua press conference that we had earlier, because that was interesting. Some interesting facts come out of that. I'll probably put that out as a supporters special. So if you want to become a supporter of NZ Sport Radio and help me with my tech for doing this kind of stuff, because it does take a bunch of tech, then head over to patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. For that, Stephen and myself also recorded speaking our Moana Pacifica players squad. So again, head over to. I'll be publishing that today, or actually probably go post that tomorrow and do the Drua one today for you. So the 2 supporter specials come out in 2 days. Become a supporter over at patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. Also, but one thing that Simon brought up in the live chat was, are you aware that there's a Rugby World Cup qualifier going on this weekend?
Who's that?
No.
Which game is it? Uruguay versus Namibia?
No, the USA versus Canada.
Oh, cool.
This on Sunday morning our time. So look, it's and one of these questions was, should World Rugby be promoting the Rugby Championship, or should they be promoting Rugby World Cup qualifiers? Look, well, the Rugby Championship.
I'll keep an eye on it if it's on. Will it be on? That's the thing. Will it be on Sky or anything in New Zealand? I'd be surprised.
I will look into that and let people know. I'm not sure if it is televised here in New Zealand. I've not seen anything advertised about it. But then again, I wouldn't expect Sky to really push it big time. But yeah, so it's first a double header between the USA and Canada is happening this Sunday, which would be a Rugby World Cup qualifier. Got to say, the USA go into this as favourites
you'd hope so.
over Canada. Canada's administration has just been an absolute dog's breakfast recently, and unfortunately, the players are being let down by that, which obviously then shows on the pitch, because they don't have the same level of coaching, they don't have the same preparation time, they haven't got the same pathways for preparing players. And now they've got things like the Toronto Arrows in Major League Rugby. You'd be hoping that Canada would be pushing on, but at the moment, I think it will be. It's not on Sky; it's on pay-per-view on Premier Sports. Seriously, the USA versus Canada on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I might have to catch the highlights if they're probably not on, but on YouTube in a couple of days.
Well,
$20
Canada's, I remember Canada's last game that they did qualify for the last Rugby World Cup was streamed on YouTube, I think it was.
Yeah, that was because they were at the repechage for World Rugby runs.
Yeah,
probably a bit, whereas this one, I think that Canada and the USA will have been selling the rights themselves.
That had more mud than Australia's biggest lake, that game. I remember that game.
The repechage is fantastic. Putting it on pay-per-view in New Zealand is an interesting choice.
Oh yeah, no, I can't see that working out very well.
Apparently, World Rugby has been collecting stream. Apparently, World Rugby has been trying to stream the qualifying matches, which is good to see. Well, look, thank you, boys, for joining me for some lockdown beers here on Friday. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Not on Sunday, though, folks. We're going to take the day off because basically it's only an hour before the Wallabies kick off against the All Blacks, and so we'll be doing a post-match reaction straight after the Bledisloe Cup 3. So come and join us to react to that one. It's at the moment, you've got to say the TAB has got the All Blacks, as heavy favourites in this one, $1.15 for the All Blacks on that one. As I say, do join me straight after that match. Shane, great to have a chat with you again. It's been a while, but great to have you back on the channel.
Time. It's been great to be back.
And Con, thank you very much for dropping in again. We'll get you on some of the proper regular shows as well to talk about some stuff. But thank you guys, everybody. Stay safe, stay secure. Let's get through this lockdown as quickly as possible, and I'll try and keep you entertained as much as I can.
Excellent.